it's been a very interesting journey for me, actually, and it's taken me to a lot of interesting places, and I think it's also been, for me personally, very interesting because it has to do with who I am, and kind of coming to understand why I'm involved in the art world and why I care about art, which also goes back to my, being raised as a Catholic. No, it's interesting. I'm not really sure what they mean by Catholic guilt. I mean, it gets bandied about, and in fact, sometimes when I tell people about my whole, my book, my ideas, whatever, the things I'm working on, they assume. This is people in the art world. They assume that, oh, you're writing about art and religion. You're writing about, kind of the awful guilt that was imposed upon you by, Catholicism. I don't really get that, to tell you the truth. I don't really feel that. I mean, yes, okay, there's a sense of sin. There is kind of a sense of sin, and I guess Catholicism, one of the things that maybe is the reason why it makes it so rich a background for artists, is that it's full of a lot of conflicts. And so on the one hand, there is this sort of conflict about sex and sexuality. And I went to Catholic school, and they were very sort of squeamish about kind of talking about sex, and there was a sense that this was like a bad thing and all of that. But then on the other hand, the counter argument was what you saw in church, what you saw in the missal. I had a little Catholic missal that had all of these amazing paintings reproduced in it, which now I know are great masterpieces of Western art, but kind of very sensual, sexual, etc. So there was this kind of definite tension between that. But I guess, yeah, in terms of guilt, I guess, well, for me at least, I don't feel like it was a kind of overwhelming thing. In certain ways, maybe it's something that's harder for people who are raised in an evangelical background. And I've talked to some artists who came from that background, and it was much more of something, that there was so much, it was so completely forbidden. I mean, in Catholicism, things are forbidden, but then, you have confession, you can get out of it, it's okay, I mean, it's much more, it's much looser in a certain way. I mean, the priests, the priests drink. They're sort of notorious drunks, I mean, wine is a part of the Catholic Mass. I mean, there's all this, it's a much more complex and looser thing. So it's not about absolute forbiddens. And I think that because of that space is a place, that's been very helpful and very fruitful for a lot of artists.